Welcome. My name is Christopher Peter and I am a political economist providing a common-sense economic perspective on salient current events with a focus on identifying opportunity, value, and growth. I think what makes America special is the combination of individual freedom, opportunity, and self-determination, a special blend that we must ensure is able to endure with each generation. The sentiment that we do not appreciate something until it is gone should not apply to this. Instead, we must appreciate this special quality that is unique to the United States of America, and help people truly understand why they should not ever cede freedom for future poverty, despite the deceptive marketing that is connecting with far too many Americans these days. I am a political economist and capitalist, and I now take it as my charge to do a better job of advocating for capitalism, to help open people's eyes that may be clouded by the emotions of their current economic state, and we must make them see the better approach than servitude to politicians. There is no better form of socialism. That is like believing that an abusive partner will be different if you just knew them better. Both are dangerous, and both need to be kept from ever becoming the norm in America, and we must accept common sense over radical susceptibility. This is a mistake that we do not want to learn from but protect our society from ever falling victim to it. The future is bright if we are able to protect our American way of life. There are things we can do better, but we do not need a revolution, especially when that revolution is bending the knee to communism or socialism, but of which are both the same in the end. Now let us begin the special episode of the Capitalist Reality Check. There was a time when society held a negative opinion on gamblers, driven by the perception of ill effects of gambling addictions or illegal gambling that harmed many communities and households. While gambling is a vice, it is connected with our society and economy as more than just a form of entertainment. Gamblers were once viewed as degenerates to some degree, or at least stereotyped that way in society. Gamblers were seen as people willing to throw everything they had or did not truly have in order to chase a fleeting chance at financial success. Stories of people losing homes to cover gambling losses, and even worse when bets were made with the wrong types of people. In many ways, people take gambles in their lives without ever stepping foot inside a casino. How many people have taken leaps into a new venture with hopes of going from employee to owner and operator for the hopes of achieving economic freedom? How many people have made risky decisions in hopes of advancing their career or compensation? Many of us have, but it does not make us bad people. In reality, there are many people that enjoy gambling who are not risking the shirt off their back. They just enjoy the entertainment as part of a night out with friends. Many people may enjoy a few rounds of blackjack, poker, or slots, but will not veer away from the pre-planned limits. And some may enjoy gambling, but prefer the other perks like the accommodations or dining available in casinos. Gambling has further connected with our society. As every aspect of society embraced technology, so did gambling companies, which made gambling more accessible to people across the nation. People can gamble on apps, place bets on their phones, and not have to travel to Vegas, Atlantic City, or their nearby local casinos, but still win perks to be used at those casinos. A great way to protect the economic interests of gaming companies. The perception of gamblers has also changed from once being viewed negatively to now being seen as credible and even respected as being able to track indicators for outcomes of future events. This has started in sports, where sports media has embraced the leanings of betting markets to influence commentary and content. There is a saying that the gambling market always seems to find information or is in the know. Not surprising that gaming companies are a major funding source behind almost every content provider on the independent side of sports media, and even the worldwide leader of sports has tried various sports betting partners to work with. Every owner and operator of a podcast has a gaming company ad and major sponsorship keeping them afloat. Now, gambling is even expanding towards what is becoming the prediction markets, where people place bets on outcomes of political contests and almost anything and everything. Companies like Kalshi, Polymarket, and others allow people to feed their need to bet with spot bets. To some degree, we need to determine whether this is a healthy approach. Let us not mistake that gambling is a vice. While some may equivocate it to other things that require some form of prediction, like investing, gambling is a vice. Investing requires some form of prediction, where you have a regulated information environment where one evaluates that information and data to determine an investment strategy, which is usually not just a momentary payoff. While gambling may be highly analytical, investments usually pay off at some point over time. Bets, over the long haul, favor the house not the better. A down day or week for an investment in a typical company usually will be offset over time. For instance, the retreat by Tesla may have caused some economic losses recently, but will probably be reversed once Tesla changes pricing or has a good quarter, affording investors to restore and even exceed their initial positions without any further action or investment. Gambling is more finite as it involves an instant event. We should not fear prediction markets or gambling overall, but we need to understand it is a vice, and people not rationally able to manage it should not be involved. At the same time, gambling may need to have stronger regulatory frameworks on the industry side, as recent controversies may question the integrity of partners in this space, not just in gaming, but the prediction market as well. The downside effects of gambling may lead people to make decisions outside of the betting world that may spread the harm. There needs to be guardrails to isolate and hold the individual or individuals accountable.
The news cycle in sports media has included a number of incidents where athletes and former athletes were involved with incidents where they were accused of rigging the outcomes of games, allegedly hosting illegal gambling events, or betting on games they were involved in. In addition, we have seen people in government face charges for influencing prediction markets by leaking information or placing bets when the bettor was privy to inside information. For sports, our professional leagues have traditionally taken a strong stance to root out the impact of gambling on the integrity of the sport. Players face significant suspensions and even lifetime bans as a result of betting infractions. Notably, the late Pete Rose, one of the greatest hitters ever, was banned for life as a result of gambling accusations that he admitted to later on in life. Many in the sports media cycle have taken a somewhat soft stance on gambling, trying to portray that an athlete gambling on a game that they were involved in is not so bad as long as they bet on their team to win. But basic ethics tells us that situations where there is asymmetric access to information is fraudulent to the party that would never have access to information that would alter decisions. This is why people in corporate leadership or finance positions are banned from trading stocks during blackout periods. And there is a push to prevent elected officials from investing in financial assets of companies where they have oversight of the industry that company operates in. Otherwise, there is a perceived conflict of interest when no wrongdoing may have occurred. Sports leagues already experience questions from fans, local media, and teams over the legitimacy of plays that did not go the team's way. For instance, we all remember the great memes that claimed the Kansas City Chiefs were getting every call. Funny images making it seem like refs were paid off. While these were clever and funny, the leagues must ensure perceptions out of anger do not become reality. And industries and policy outcomes should not become impacted by a nefarious person trying to benefit from a prediction market bet. While we like to pretend everyone is good at heart, the reality is that there are bad actors and irrational people in the world. And we must ensure that these people are not able to economically harm or harm people in any manner.
The sports leagues are already negotiating with gaming companies to try to address some of the issues that are occurring. And gaming companies are doing the right thing by bringing to light the incidents when they discover them. All parties concerned have a vested interest in ensuring fair play, and that the integrity of the value chain is ensured. In the betting space, regulation, prevention, and mitigation has been traditionally placed on the gaming company. Rational people do not bet the value of their homes, their family's future, or things they do not have. That is irrational. But people are flawed and some are not able to reasonably control the desire to feel a win. For instance, I am more than comfortable walking away from a casino without going to an ATM. I do not feel like I need to chase a win. Other people are not able to do that. I know people who have lost entire checks or have been asked not to come back to a casino. For me, I would be more disappointed if I missed out on a good meal there. But we all have vices that we can control and others that get the better of us if we do not moderate. And moderation is typically left to the gaming company. Because irrational people cannot be expected to be rational. And society has not really found effective ways at dealing with people problems without redistributing blame. I support that leagues need to have zero tolerance for gambling violations. I was a big fan of Pete Rose and as a fan hoped he would be in the Hall of Fame. Once he admitted to gambling, and only did it for profit, it kind of changed my perception. Integrity is important and it is something needed from all parties associated with an organization. The government should have zero tolerance as well. But we have seen that there is a great deal of financial funny business going on. But sports is the last true sanctuary that Americans have to come together, set aside their worries and all the ills of the world, and enjoy competition for a few hours before returning to their reality. Gambling is a vice, but it is a form of entertainment. We need guardrails to protect people and the institution if we want it to continue to have a place. Otherwise it will be regulated out of existence. So there is a need to self-regulate and hold bad actors accountable and adapt.
Rooting out all improper betting will be difficult. Players with bad intentions will adapt as well, placing indirect bets through friends, acquaintances, or others. So it will be a challenge. But it is something that should be the goal. Many times, the simple approach of showing partners and the market that you are willing to find fraud, abuse, and corruption is enough to protect the integrity. Even when there are incidents, a better mousetrap will lead to more resilient mice. But that does mean you stop innovating. There may be a need to track athletes and their households more closely in the same manner than executives of corporations are followed. If there are straw purchases, then athletes should be banned for life and potentially prosecuted for fraud. Same for people who could influence other markets based on predictions. Another approach should also help people understand what responsible gambling looks like. Anytime a person is in a situation where they get emotionally charged, whether it's gambling, an argument, or political events, they may make decisions based on their immediate feeling rather than what they would otherwise. Many times, you need to have guardrails in places so that you do not have to make the decision. It is already in place. Limit your bets or the amount you are gambling. Do not chase losses. The next hand could just dig you deeper. Luck cannot outdo stupidity.
There are issues in our politics that both sides of the political spectrum agree that a solution is needed, but we may disagree with the solutions proposed by either side. As an olive branch, we are going to seek to provide a balanced take on some of the issues by our fellow Americans on the left, starting with diversity and identity politics. I believe that we all can agree that all people, regardless of race, gender, religion, or any other demographic categorization, should be treated fairly, treated with respect and afforded basic kindness. Also, I believe that people should neither gain opportunity solely based on their demographics or political identity, nor should they be denied opportunity because of the same. That should not be controversial. But identity has become a battering ram to accept ideas and policies that have opened the door to radical extremism that we are now forced to confront in the modern era of our politics. When there is a clear lack of leadership in an individual person or in terms of thought leadership, those voids will be filled. We just need to make sure that it is filled with ideas that are consistent with our shared values and principles. There is no denying that our demographics play a major role in our personal lives. Our cultural background, the level and quality of our educational training, our social network, and social norms frame the decisions we make each and every day. It impacts our economic choices, social choices, and individual decisions that may be meaningful or meaningless. And our backgrounds and story is what makes you unique. But that is not what makes you necessarily qualified for economic opportunity. The aspects of your life that you actually purposefully pursued, like your educational skill set combined with your work experience and reputation, are what is the part of your story that is the most merit-based. Unfortunately, in our recent political discourse, the progressive left mainly is obsessed with identity politics and selling a narrative that negatively shapes the United States of America based on race relations over our existence. While pushing for diversity is something positive, the use of race relations for political agendas that do nothing to really improve race relations is the issue or problem. Especially when the narrative is that the United States is systemically racist. And furthermore, that America is irredeemable because of race issues in our history. They are fundamentally flawed in the line of thinking and their ideas, as those ideas do not actually unite society, but further entrench racial tension, especially ones that are not currently present in the same level as far past generations. First, we can acknowledge that America does have a checkered past. We may view all people as being created equal, but all people were not always viewed as equal. African Americans came to the United States largely as enslaved people during the British colonization of the North American continent, and when we declared our independence, it did not extend to them until almost a century later. And we all know the history of our segregated society, which did not end for another 100 years after that. But the important part is that it did end. America is not fundamentally flawed or irredeemably connected to the past indiscretions. To view that, one must be purposefully naive of the progress and efforts made to bridge the gap and heal the divide. The United States did not invent slavery or discrimination, inheriting both horrible traditions from our British colonizers. In fairness, the British did not invent both either. Slavery and discrimination lasted well before them as well. And unfortunately, both still exist in this world, including in communist and socialist societies. That is right. There are socialist and communist societies that do not respect the rights of their labor, nor do they concern themselves with the broader welfare of their people. The genius and foresight of our founders is that they set the foundation for a future beyond the sin and stain of slavery, even though they did not have the ability to end it outright in their era. But they set the mental framework that would plant the seed of universal freedom. We do not talk enough about the aspirational vision that existed. So to say that our founding was irredeemable to me is extremely naive and short-sighted. While we all like to think that we would be able to navigate the constraints of the moment to make the decisions that we all agree were needed, the reality was that there were constraints that existed, where ensuring that there was a free nation took precedence over debating an issue that was not actually debatable, as history showed us. There was a great price paid to move society past these indiscretions to end the sin. A lot of white men paid a high price in blood to free black men they never met, did not owe anything to, or would ever be appreciated by. There was a great number of black men who eventually stood next to them in the fight for their freedom. Rather than crossing a border to avoid the conflict, they did their role in the battle as well. Still, it took another century to truly make the leap that demographics do not make people genetically deficient to another, that we are all truly born equal from our Creator, and it is what we do in life that makes us stand out. In the current era, we are finally at the point where we can truly feel that everyone has equal and fair chances for success. There will always be some tensions, as individuals competing for opportunity and resources may compete with people of a different group, and the best person in terms of merit should get the opportunity. And, if there are manipulations, then those people committing racism and other forms of discrimination should be held accountable, but not simply because of their demographics. Progressives do not see it that way. Rather than being forward-thinking, they are choosing to relegate their ideals to the past, find themselves in the view of America rooted centuries ago, a view that most people of color have elevated past a long time ago. Somehow we are supposed to believe that discrimination will cure discrimination as long as the beneficiary is considered a harmed class. But this is not what anyone truly wants or desires. Back then and now, people just truly want a fair opportunity to prove their worth and show what they can do. They do not want to be denied opportunities solely because of their demographics, and rational-minded people do not want to receive opportunities solely because of it either. Why? Because discrimination in all its forms, traditional or reverse, dehumanizes people. It makes people lesser than they truly are, and those who truly want opportunity, economic elevation, and success value the path towards earning it. Regardless of anyone's skin color, gender, religion, or ideology, they truly want to earn their keep and show what they can create. That is truly the American dream. We may not become captains of industry, world leaders, or inventors, but we all want to be able to look at our lives at different points and be proud of what we achieved and able to determine what comes next. Americans do not desire to be viewed as animals incapable of providing for ourselves or dehumanized by being prevented from the opportunity to do just that. Rational Americans have chosen to move towards colorblindness and focus on merit and building diverse pipelines that create opportunities for people to succeed based on their own efforts. Focus on creating a level playing field and let everyone compete. Demonstrate your skill set, not your story, family connection, nor government status. Show what you can do, ideas that will create value, and the plan to bring the idea to reality. Progressives prefer to view people of color as somewhat defective and in need of perpetual tending by the government. Conveniently, this viewpoint ties the tending to the political power for progressive politicians. People do not need babysitters or allies, just opportunities and visibility. Expand access to exposure to economic ventures for all people, and allow them to compete without advantage or anchors. That is what rational people really want. No one wants more government.
Why should the default thinking by anyone in society be that all white people are racist unless they prove otherwise? Is that not discrimination in the same form? Identity politics regresses our society in many ways and does equal harm as the harm it theoretically intends to fight. Advancing stereotypes to fight stereotypes or corner policy discussions is harming real progress in our society, to the point that we should be generally concerned if those advocating for this line of thinking really want to improve race relations. America does not need another revolution or fundamental changes to our way of life. We just need to be able to rationally deal with day-to-day life with a focus on behaving morally, respectful to each other, and abiding by the laws. We simply need to be more empathetic to others regardless of whether we have a past connection or relation to them. There will be incidents that raise questions, and we should be able to find out what exactly happened, the true cause of the events, and hold the bad actors accountable. The mob mentality that seeks to influence outcomes has done great harm to our society and created great distrust in their cause. Are they wanting to know the truth or simply collect donations for their leaders to buy additional income properties? Americans are not perfect. No group of people are perfect. Every nation in the world that has existed more than a year has something in the past that does not shine a good light on them. But we must remember that America is the most diverse nation in the world and embraces diversity of all kinds in a manner that no other nation does. Interesting, how some of the progressive cult will hold non-diverse monolithic nations as their standard bearers, but completely ignore reality. America is the preferred destination for immigrants, Consistently, the percentage of people emigrating here is usually over 1/5 of all immigrants. Are all these people completely irrational or naive if they purposefully come to a nation that is systemically racist despite being the most diverse nation on earth? Being more diverse than the nation that they are migrating from? The progressive math is not adding up. And their logic is not logical. America is not systemically racist. There are people that hold hate for other people. That is unfortunate and something that exists everywhere. And is multi-directional. Hate should not exist and is not right. Unfortunately, we are seeing people that proclaim that hate has no place in their homes and lives show hate. All forms of hate are unacceptable. As many podcasters have pointed out, the demand for discrimination by progressives has far exceeded the actual supply of legitimate discriminatory events. Unfortunately, to the point where groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center are being accused of funding the issues that they are intended to fight. We need to address real discrimination when the facts, evidence, and data prove that it occurred. But simply looking at the skin colors and automatically associating the person in the worst stereotype associated with their demographics. That is actually racist. Now, let us get the ideological perspective.
A picture tells 1,000 words, but never the whole story. From the center-right to conservative perspective, they would prefer that we accept a color-blind approach as well as be considerate of the progress we have made. And they are not wrong. A major issue with the progressive mindset is that they focus a great deal on what the image rather than the substance. Inclusivity and community are important. But each one of us is more than our race, gender, religion, or any other demographic characteristic. Each one of us is unique and not a token individual to make a picture look a certain way. I can understand how a person may walk into a room and see how everyone looks and may feel a certain way. For instance, if you are dressed in shorts and a nice shirt, but walk into a restaurant where everyone is in suits and evening gowns, you are going to feel out of place. But clothing is not always reflective of true wealth or fit. There are people who dress nicely, but do not have a dime to their name. And there are some people who are casual to their core and have plenty of discretionary spend. You cannot always judge a person by superficial characteristics. People do not always conform to traditional norms or want to spend money on fleeting items. I am not sure that there are really any well-adjusted people who go into a room and count the people based on their demographics. How to categorize political ideological association based simply on looks? Chris has told the story of how people go up to him because he may look the same and they assume his politics. To the point that they feel comfortable saying political quips, only to become uncomfortable when he counters with facts that they cannot refute, or questions they were not expecting to answer. People are all individuals, and to believe that all people will connect on superficial commonalities is a bit naive. Humans have intellect, personalities, and individualized traits. To believe they are sheep for the shepherd is short-sighted and naive. But we do have a flaw in our logic that we assume that the whole world is exactly like us. Something progressives complain about in others, but practice it themselves. People all do not want the same thing in the same proportion. Not every job, every field is going to resemble statistics. There are some career paths that appeal to certain groups and communities more than others. Through experience, family tradition, or interests. Rather than obsessing about forcing people who do not want to be in a field or are not fully committed to it, we should ensure that pipelines are diverse and opportunities do not have barriers. When I go to any place, I prefer that the person or people I am interacting with or doing business with are actually qualified and passionate about their work and responsibilities. Not simply there because the company wanted to make the company picture look a certain way, or shake up the organizational chart. We should be able to balance diversity, opportunity, and individual choice. And that does not make society racist to allow people to choose rather than forcing a statistic. That makes us naturally human and respectful of the individual. The path forward is to expand pipelines so that everyone has a fair chance to develop the skills needed to qualify for opportunities without lowering standards. We want people to race to the top rather than purposefully descend to the bottom. An economy based on merit with universal standards is the step in the right direction. People do not really want a handout, they want a helping hand to guide them or point them in the right direction and allow them to do the rest. Except for the blue-haired, angry, uninformed progressive. We never want to see people lose opportunity or the ability to feel safe because of race, gender, or any demographics, or politics exploiting demographics.
The left supports inclusivity, but they seem not to see the flaws in viewing the world from the lens of identity. Facts are not racist, sexist, or any other form of discrimination, but you will miss the facts, evidence, and data if you purposefully view the world biasedly. People unite around common ideals, principles, and experiences. People do not unite by trying to abide by the sensitivities of others. Naturally, if other people are too much to deal with, you simply do not. People rarely choose the difficult path. Identity politics is unworkable. Sure, people should try to be welcoming and tolerate other people, but you cannot expect people to be sensitive to everything that you could take offense to besides the obvious. Most people have enough on their plate to concern themselves with the checkerboard of things others could take offense to. I think it is reasonable to expect people to show basic kindness and understanding, to treat others the way they want to be treated. But I think it is a bit unreasonable to expect people to walk on eggshells so that you do not find offense to something that is not generally offensive. Proponents of identity politics use it to wield influence by making everything conveniently racist. For instance, the recent debate over the classification by a group accepting government funding of politeness being a sign of white supremacy. I think most people of all backgrounds consider politeness as being a sign of good upbringing and emotional maturity. The acceptable counter to every argument should be not that it is racist, sexist, or other forms of ists, simply because the person does not want to reason or is unable to. We have allowed low-information people to claim discrimination at every turn, even when there is no shred of evidence, and we have regressed in many ways. As a result, America has not effectively countered radical ideas because of fear of being labeled and the hysteria that is associated with the label. So instead of debating issues around facts, evidence, and available data, people use identity politics to advance ideas. And people's fear or ignorance around the hysteria caused by this approach allows bad ideas to come to the forefront. For instance, the completely idiotic call for complete shifts in our culture, economic means, and way of life away from institutions that have proven to be universally good for all people regardless of demographics. The only people ironically calling for these ideas are the blue-haired idiots, or the fringe, who are usually addicted to substances. While biases are an issue, there are many reasons why economic outcomes vary besides just superficial factors. In many instances, people with differing cultural identities have the same outcomes when they share similar educational groupings or similar home structures. Addressing the actual factors that lead to a greater chance of poverty or lack of economic success can be more effective. Americans are not victims, and we need to stop pretending that everyone is one simply because they exist. From the left, you are a victim or a survivor, and fascist if you disagree with them. That is how they want to organize society. But the reality, unless you truly had an actual tragic moment, you are only a victim of your own choices or complacency. The biggest challenge in our society is to tell people things that they do not want to hear, do not understand, or have no ready prescribed solution that does not involve hard work and effort. If you tell them that they are a victim, then they can take comfort that it is not their fault, and perceive that they bear no responsibility in solving their own problems. It is a clear and proven fact that more times than not, if you work hard, gain skills, and make good choices, you will make it in America. Be accountable for the quality of work you do, treat others with respect, and develop new ideas and process improvements to create value. You will make it in America. This is not just for the privileged, but for everyone. The key is to be able to learn, improve, and try. People who do not want to try seem to be willing to put in the effort to fabricate lies and create their victim stories. Sometimes you have to try harder than you expected, find innovative approaches, and be a better communicator. All skills that will make you better, but it is easier to be complacent in the idea that you gave the same effort as others, when you truly know that you did not. Let us stop trying to pretend that people are defective simply because of their demographics and that they need an empowered white person to guide them in life. Let us stop pretending that people of color are not able to live up to the same standards of others. The ills of low expectations and victimization have kept so many people tied to dependency and stunted their futures. That line of thinking is racist.
Now, let us have a conversation about political integrity. We need to be able to see facts, evidence, and data as what they are, rather than filtering them through partisan or ideological frameworks. What we saw recently from another underperforming new governor was pretty troubling. Unfortunately, Governor Silly Cheryl, what her name should be, of my home state of New Jersey made a fool of herself and embarrassed the Garden State last week when she spoke about the voting habits of illegal immigrants in the recent New Jersey elections. She stated that there are 6,600 illegals registered to vote in New Jersey and 400 of them actually did. She blamed it on a software glitch. She then went on a partisan rant where she did not use common sense, as she just proved the point that she was trying to negate when she followed up with an attack on President Trump. I question whether she gave an accurate number for either the registered or the population that voted, as New Jersey Dems are not honest with numbers. This governor was the candidate who did not understand her own income. The software company quickly countered her statement, pointing out that the software did what the state paid them to make it do. The state bore the responsibility to vet the applicants and ensure that illegals were not registered. So it was not a software glitch, more that the state government, run by New Jersey Democrats, did not do their jobs. How could she have done it better? First, you clearly are presenting evidence that illegals were enabled to vote by bad leadership by New Jersey's state government, under then Governor Phil Murphy. You have to acknowledge the facts and evidence. You can add that it does not indicate that it is widespread, but that will only be believable if you are willing to turn over the data. And you should be stepping up enforcement to ensure it does not and cannot happen in the future. Keep in mind, New Jersey does ask for your identification when you go to vote, so there is a voter identification requirement.
The political practice of blaming President Trump for failures of your state's government is naive and irresponsible. Sure, based on the dates, she was not in power and the fault actually is another blemish on Phil Murphy. But the practice of trying to deflect blame of poor governance with ramblings just shows that there are probably bad intentions. You can look at as she was trying to be transparent. Or you can look at the situation as she was trying to get out in front, shape how people perceive the issue, muddy the water, and distract as she does nothing to prevent it from happening again. We do not still know how an illegal would know they could cast a ballot or to vote. So they register at the motor vehicle agency, get their paperwork, and then they know where to go to vote. There must have been something sent to them confirming registration. And probably message to go out to vote. She did text bomb the entire state. So there are still questions of how these illegal immigrants and now illegal voters voted. We know that Democrats would love to have illegals boost their vote totals. And she is now another of the Democrat darlings to show that voters in their state made a major mistake. She chose to demonstrate politics over leadership. States should be able to understand the need to ensure that our processes are free of fraud, corruption, or abuse regardless of ideology.
As a sports fan, I cannot help but be happy when my team makes a big splash in free agency, especially when it is a team that desperately needs a change in direction. And my Sixers received that change in direction on Friday with the signing of LeBron James. LeBron James is clearly one of the best players in the history of the National Basketball Association and will be taking his talents to South Philly. For the whole time, people in the sports media world were waiting for his decision. I did not expect him to choose Philly. I thought it was Miami or Cleveland. Then the Miami social media stunt happened. I thought there was no way it was a mistake other than timing of the release. So, seeing the alert come in and clicking on ESPN, and seeing my Sixers colors on LeBron, I was really shocked and excited at the same time. The Sixers crashed out of the playoffs and the fan base had lost all faith following the butt-whipping we took from the Knicks. But they did answer with making changes to the front office and completely revamped most of the roster. The trade for Jaylen Brown was shocking, as well as I was not sure why a team that just was sent home by a division rival would trade one of their best players to that rival and not outside of the conference. The Eagles and Cowboys have made trades, but not one of that significance. Did not seem like something a team would do strategically. Now, I am realistic in understanding that this is not LeBron coming from Cleveland to Miami or Miami to Cleveland or Cleveland to Los Angeles. He is a great player with over 2 decades of experience and wear and tear. But LeBron is still a great talent and can still carry a team, but will not have as much on this roster. He will definitely have his days that he will show his greatness, but most importantly he will instill so much of his great basketball knowledge on this roster, and hopefully help build this team's overall quality of play. The Sixers have always been talented but rarely healthy when it matters most. The roster as constructed seems poised to change that, as the burden will be distributed. Excited. Cautiously excited.
We have talked about the GOAT conversation before and had Michael Jordan as the GOAT a couple years ago. But if the Sixers win a title, then he has a strong case, as it will be the 4th team to win a title with and the 5th. In terms of resume, he probably has the best resume of any basketball player ever. Michael Jordan bests him in terms of quality in the big moments and overall greatness above the league, as well as being the driving force of making the league a global brand. LeBron has helped build on it, but Jordan is iconic. Still to this day has the top-selling sneaker. But LeBron has all the stats, and we have not seen a player in basketball since the Boston Celtics appear in the finals, win or lose, as frequently as LeBron. The only other athlete with the same claim is Tom Brady. There is no denying his greatness and no denying that he still is able to positively impact the game. Even in his 40s he is still very productive and reliable. The Sixers will be his last ride, but he will still have a realistic chance of elevating us to a championship. This has to be the most talented team he has played on since Miami at least. So we should be cautiously optimistic at the very least. Especially since it may be Jaylen Brown and Tyrese Maxey being the leaders paving the way. Once again, it is good times in the Philly sports world. The Eagles won the second Super Bowl recently. The Phillies have been in contention annually. And the Flyers made the playoffs and seemed poised to compete. And now the Sixers have the best roster in the East? Hopefully good times are ahead. In closing, do you want a real opportunity to elevate your standing, or are you willing to yield your freedom and choice to empower a future tyrant? The difficult choice when a person is not satisfied with their state in life at that moment is to ask them to not take the low-hanging fruit. To not blindly accept the offer from someone looking to exploit them and their situation. Socialism and communism is not the answer. What is not redeemable or reformable are those two deadly systems that have killed millions of people. While there are things that we can do better, we must never abandon the very good for oppression and true tyranny that exist with socialists. Must never be blinded to believe that empowering an elected official is more impactful than empowering ourselves. Sure, we need good governance. But government is never a substitute for personal responsibility, choice, and opportunity. A distant elected official that does not know you nor understands your situation will never be able to solve your problems. All they will do is make those problems more costly, create chaos, and exploit that chaos for their own benefit. Notice that people fleeing nations are usually fleeing socialist nations. Think about that. We will continue to speak out against socialist and communist of all forms. Thank you for experiencing this episode of the Capitalist Reality Check. Your viewership is appreciated and valued. Please follow the Capitalist Reality Check on social media and continue to visit www.capitalistrealitycheck.com for new episodes. Thank you once again. Until next time.